Okay, you guys, let's talk about one of my favorite brands ever, Skims. I love how with Skims, I have a one-stop shop for everything. My personal favorite is their Fits Everybody dipped front thong. When I put this on, you guys, it's game over. There is a reason that my entire closet has turned into Skims, and the intimates are no exception. So shop my favorite bras and underwear at skims.com, and after you place your order, be sure to let them know that I sent you. Select podcast in the survey, and be sure to select my show in the drop-down menu that follows. Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you guys so much for coming. This is so exciting. This is the first live podcast that I've ever done, first live thing. I came to VidCon about 7 years ago, and so I haven't been back in quite some time, so a lot has changed, but it's so amazing to be here and so excited to see all of you. For today, I have a case that we're going to run through. I should probably introduce myself more than that. I host the Killer Instinct podcast, and it's a true crime podcast. We post weekly every single Wednesday. We also have a Patreon. We post weekly on the Patreon as well. We cover all sorts of cases, solved cases, unsolved cases, serial killers, cold cases, all of the above. And I'm really excited to share today's case with you. We have an unsolved case to go through, so I figured we would do that. And then at the end, if you guys have any questions or just want to open discussion chit chat, we can do that as well. But the case that we're doing today, like I said, it's an unsolved case, and I chose it for a couple reasons. The first one being it is unsolved, and I think that that is always a really great case to present, just to give it a spotlight and give it a platform, get more eyes and ears on it. Along with that, the person that we're talking about today, Anita Knutson, she grew up in Anaheim, and she grew up here. So I just thought it would kind of be fitting to talk about her case. I covered this case on Patreon a while ago, and it was one that sparked a lot of discussion because it's one that at the end of it, you're going to have more questions than you do answers. And those are sometimes a little bit more frustrating of cases, because I think that as an audience or just as someone who is, consuming these cases, we want closure. We want a beginning, middle, end, and we want justice, and we want someone to point the finger to. But I think that that's also equally as important for why we should talk about this case today, because it's been years and there's still not many answers. So let's jump into it. Today we're talking about Anita Knutson. She was born on September 22nd, 1988, and she was adopted when she was 5 months old by her parents. Her parents were Gordon and Sharon. And she was adopted and grew up in Anaheim, California with her two siblings as well, Anna and Daniel. And she lived here. She went to Glen Knoll Elementary School, Bernardo Yorba Middle School, and then spent her freshman year in Esperanza High School before her and her family made the move to Butte, North Dakota. Now, Anita's father, Gordon, was actually from Butte, and the family moved back. And obviously, moving at any age is hard, but moving from Southern California to Butte, North Dakota was drastic for many reasons, because Butte is a very, very small town. We've talked about small towns before on Killer Instinct, and it's an everyone knows everyone kind of town, everyone knows everyone community. Butte is different. Butte has 68 people, so very, very small. And Gordon was actually the mayor of Butte, and him and his kids, they all have memories of, decorating the main street of Butte with Christmas lights and any sort of celebration. There were 8 streets, so it was the main one. And Anita moved there when she was 15 years old, and she wasn't super stoked about it. 15 is a hard time to move. I moved from Connecticut to San Diego when I was 15, so I was going from a little bit of a smaller town to a bigger city, but Anita was doing the opposite. She was going from here to a town of 68 people. So it was a little bit of an adjustment period, but again, her dad was from Butte. She knew Butte well, and she was ready for the new adventure. And while living in Butte, she attended Velva High School. She graduated with honors in 2006, and while in high school, she was very active in her extracurricular activities. She was incredibly talented at soccer. She also was great at the violin and piano. She had many talents. It seemed that she was the type of person where anything she did, anything she tried, she was automatically good at it. And after graduating from high school, she was super excited when she got accepted into Minot State University. Minot was a little bit less than an hour away from Butte, and it currently has about 50,000 people there. And it was a big jump, but Anita was ready for it. She was excited to go to school, start a new chapter of her life, and really take this leap. And she was going to study elementary education. She absolutely loved kids, and she was incredibly close with her family. She was described by those who knew her as someone who was positive, incredibly positive, even from a very young age. She always had a go-get-em attitude. She wasn't afraid of anything. She was just took everything and just went with it. She cared deeply for her family and her friends. She was also incredibly fashionable. She always wore the color pink. She always looked good. She always looked put together. She, wanted her outfits to match, her purses to match, her nails, all of the things. And she was friends with everyone. And like I said, she loved kids. She was studying elementary education, and she had big dreams of becoming a teacher one day. Now, once she was in college, Anita spent a semester in the dorms. I think that's typical for a lot of colleges. They require you to do one semester in dorms before she decided to get an off-campus apartment with her roommate, Nicole Thomas. But where this case really starts is in June of 2007. Like I said, Anita was very close with her family, and when they did not hear from her for about 2 days, they started to feel like something was wrong. Gordon actually drove to Anita's apartment on June 4th to check on her, and when he walked up to her apartment window, he saw that Anita was lying face down in her bed. He was able to get the apartment manager to open the door, and when Gordon walked up to his daughter, he saw her laying face down. She had blood on her bedding, and her body was cold to the touch, and 911 was dialed immediately. Now, authorities arrived on the scene, and they confirmed that, sadly, Anita was murdered. Anita was wearing a pink bathrobe. Like I said, she was laying on her stomach. And when taking a look at the room that she was in, her bedroom, everything seemed to look intact. It didn't look like there was a massive struggle. She still had her purse, her cash, her wallet. Everything was with her, which really strayed police away from believing that this could have been a possible robbery gone wrong. Along with that, they noticed that Anita had been stabbed. She had stab marks to her chest and to her heart. And they also discovered superficial stabbings on her neck, leading them to believe that whoever did this to her could have done a scare tactic of holding the knife to her neck, whether that was before or after. And so she did have those superficial markings as well. Now, there was no sign of sexual assault on Anita, and the medical examiner concluded that at the time that her body had been discovered, she had been dead for about 24 hours, leaving her assumed day that she was murdered, June 3rd, 2007. Now, right by Anita's bed, police also noticed what they believed to be the murder weapon. It was a small pocket knife with a distinct tribal emblem on it, and there was blood on the knife, and that blood was later confirmed to be Anita's, again, leading police to believe that this was, in fact, the murder weapon that was left behind. Now, when authorities began their investigation, they started taking note of key factors in Anita's apartment. Anita's apartment complex, just as a whole, it was a one-story apartment complex, so it wasn't multiple levels, it was one story through and through, so Anita, given that, was also on the ground level. When they took a look at Anita's bedroom window, they noticed that the window was open and the screen of the window was not there. It had been removed. They actually decided because of that to speak to the maintenance man at the apartment complex, and his name was Marty. And Marty did confirm that he was the one that removed the screen from the window because he had walked by it earlier that day on June 4th and noticed that the screen was broken. He said that because he noticed the screen was broken, he decided that he was just going to fix it. So he went and he grabbed it and he went on his way. Now, really what this meant to police was that the only way that anyone would have been able to get into Anita, or get to Anita for that matter, in order to murder her would be through that window. That would be their main point of entry. The door was always locked. Anita's apartment door was always locked, and there was only 4 people who had a key to her apartment. It was her roommate, the apartment manager, and the maintenance man. And we'll get to that in a moment, but the maintenance man, like I said, Marty, he spoke with the authorities, and he explained that when he initially saw the screen, it looked as if it had been sliced. When he walked by it, it looked like someone had just slashed it. And so he went and he grabbed it, and again, he just went on his way. He said he didn't look in Anita's apartment, and by the way, just to clarify, Anita was dead at the time that he went to grab the screen, but he said he didn't look in the apartment because he didn't feel like he needed to. He didn't assume that anything was wrong. He didn't assume that there was something bad. And so he just took the screen, and he said that he called out and he yelled out that he was going to take the screen and that he'd be back, and that no one responded, but he didn't, again, think that there was anything wrong. Now, police also spoke with Anita's roommate, Nicole, and Nicole spoke to authorities and said that she had gone to her parents' house for the weekend, so she was not at the apartment at the time. She didn't really have much to add for police regarding details. However, she did say that Anita was a popular girl. She had a lot of friends. She also noted that Anita was a very pretty girl. She got a lot of attention from a lot of men and led police to believe, because of how she was wording things, that this could have been, or the motive for this was possible, that maybe Anita turned down someone's advances. Maybe someone showed romantic interest in her and it was not reciprocated, just based on the way in which Nicole was vocalizing how Anita was. Now, with the little information that they had to go off of, police also spoke to the residents of the apartment complex and wanted to see if anyone had seen or heard anything that was suspicious or unusual. However, no one reported hearing or seeing anything. And also the residents claimed that they really didn't know Anita very well. She kept to herself. She was very kind, nice, but she was a little bit more on the quieter side. Now, when looking at Anita's cell phone, that was the next step in this investigation. Police wanted to know who she was talking to, if she had gotten into a fight with anyone, if anyone was calling her, trying to contact her. And they did see that Anita was texting a man named Michael Vaughn. Now, Michael appeared to be the last person that Anita ever had contact with. Michael was a 24-year-old man. He grew up in a military family, and he settled down in North Dakota. Now, Michael said that him and Anita did text frequently. They both liked each other. Michael said that they were trying to get to know each other, but they both had conflicting work schedules, making it really difficult for them to spend quality time together. Michael said that the last time he saw Anita in person leading up to her death was about 3 weeks prior to her murder. And so because of that, the two just spent a lot of time texting. They would text each other back and forth a lot. And he was texting Anita in the early morning hours of June 3rd at around 5 a.m. And the context of these messages did have police a little bit suspicious. Michael was asking Anita if she was home alone. He was asking her if her roommate was there, if she was by herself. Michael said that this was just casual, him just trying to make conversation. But again, police did have to question that because of the circumstances.
Okay, you guys, let's talk about one of my favorite brands ever. Skims. This truly is a pinch me moment every time I get to talk to you about Skims, because I am constantly wearing Skims. My whole closet is Skims. And if you guys know me, you know that I prioritize comfort over most things in my life. And that goes for everything, all the way down to the intimates that I put on every single day. But luckily for me, Skims always knows what they're doing. But are we surprised? Because I'm really not. I love how with Skims, I have a one-stop shop for everything. I'm talking my clothes, my pajamas, my bras, my underwear. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, I've just noticed that with other intimate brands, the products are wildly impractical or incredibly uncomfortable. Whether that be a wire, it's just unflattering, or something just pokes out in places that it definitely shouldn't. That's not the case with Skims. My personal favorite is their Fits Everybody dipped front thong. When I put this on, you guys, it's game over. This is without a doubt the most comfortable underwear I have ever put on in my life. I vowed to myself years ago that I would never go back to any other brand because I am so obsessed with how Skims looks and feels. There is a reason that my entire closet has turned into Skims, and the intimates are no exception. It has turned into my staple. I am being honest when I say I don't own another brand of underwear because nothing else compares. This hugs your body in ways that I didn't even think possible, and it just melts into your skin, staying put all day long. Trust me on this one, you guys, there is a reason everyone loves Skims, and once you try them, you will never look back. So shop my favorite bras and underwear at skims.com, and after you place your order, be sure to let them know that I sent you. Select podcast in the survey, and be sure to select my show in the drop-down menu that follows.
Now, there was also someone else who struck police's interest in this case outside of Michael Vaughn, and that was another one of Anita's friends whose name is Tyler Schmaltz. Now, Tyler was 20 years old. He did not live at Anita's apartment complex, but he was also a student at Minot University. He was a high school friend of Anita's and had told authorities that him and Anita spent a lot of time together. They hung out a lot, and he was actually at Anita's apartment complex on June 4th. So after police had discovered Anita's body, he had spent some time just lingering a little bit. And according to him, it was because he wanted to know what was happening with his friend. He wanted to know what was going on. But this stood out to police because we've talked cases before where perpetrators or suspects will often insert themselves into cases. They will put themselves in the middle of it, or they'll want to be just close enough, whether that's to, satisfy whatever sick craving they have, or if that's to just know the information that's being, updated in the case and just have kind of one step ahead at all times. And so it did strike police as odd that Tyler was there on June 4th. Now, according to everyone who knew Anita and everyone who knew Tyler had a crush on Anita. He really liked her. They went to prom together, but Anita always viewed Tyler as a friend. And Tyler said that Anita did know about his feelings for her, but they didn't let it get in the way of their friendship because Anita really did care about Tyler as a friend, and Tyler claimed that he cared about Anita as well. Now, Tyler did say that he didn't know anyone who would ever want to hurt Anita. He couldn't think of anyone who would want to do something like this to her because it appeared as if everyone liked her. And that seemed to be the consistent theme. That was the one thing that everyone was saying to authorities over and over. They couldn't imagine who would want to do something like this. Anita didn't have any enemies. She didn't have anyone that had a vendetta out against her. But it did appear with Anita's murder that whoever did this to Anita was doing this to kill her. It wasn't a robbery gone wrong, like we said. This seemed like a crime of passion. Someone was angry at Anita. However, it was up to police to figure out who. Now, pertaining to Tyler, like I said, he was very involved in the investigation. He helped organize Anita's funeral. He was putting billboards up for Anita. He also created the Facebook page to try and help find Anita. It was called Justice for Anita. And he also called police frequently to get updates on the investigation. And again, just from the police's standpoint, it did seem a little too close for comfort. It seemed a little bit, why are you so curious and why do you want to know so badly? And I do think that there is a line between, and what that line is can sometimes get blurred, between a concerned, caring friend or potentially someone who knows a little bit more than they're letting on. Now, Tyler self-admittedly, like I said, he had a crush on Anita, but he knew the feeling was not mutual. He said that the last time that he saw Anita was Friday, May 31st, when Anita came over to his apartment. So this is just days leading up to her murder. And he claimed that the two of them went on a walk together. So they went and did their walk. Tyler said that there was nothing going on. He said that Anita didn't give any indication that she was scared for her life or concerned or was having any sort of issue with anyone. He just said that everything seemed completely normal. Now, Tyler did give his DNA and his fingerprints to the authorities just for them to have it and to be able to test if needed. And he also told police that as far as his alibi went, his alibi was that he was at his house at the time of the murder playing video games, which again is difficult for police because no one is able to corroborate that. But because they didn't have enough evidence on him, Tyler was free to go. Now, a week after Anita's murder, police also responded to a 911 call from a woman who claimed that there was a man hiding in her closet, and this was in Minot. Now, this man was Devin Hall. Devin was a teenager at the time, and he did have a criminal past. He had been involved in several break-ins in different homes that involved breaking through windows, and that is really what struck a chord for police, thinking that maybe he could have something to do with this, so they wanted to speak with him. Now, after he got caught hiding in this closet, he was put into a juvenile facility, and police went and spoke to relatives of Devin who lived in Wolf Point, Montana. Now, to police's surprise, and this is where things got a little bit interesting for authorities, they brought evidence pictures of the crime scene, and that included a picture of the knife, the murder weapon, and they presented that to this family member of Devin's who recognized it. She said, "Oh, I know that knife. That knife belongs to our family." And obviously for police, this struck for them, so they brought that to Devin. They spoke to Devin, they sat down with him, and according to Devin, he denied everything. He said that he didn't do it, he didn't know Anita, he has no connection to Anita, they have no mutuals, complete strangers. He just so happened to be in Minot at that time. But when police showed him the picture of the knife, Devin was also surprised because he also recognized the knife. And he said, I do know that knife, but I didn't have anything to do with it, but I do recognize that knife. I feel like I know that knife. And it was really Devin's honesty that played in his favor, because police felt that if he didn't have anything to do with it, or if he did and was trying to cover it up, he would have just denied it and said, just as he denied everything else, he would say, I don't know that knife's not mine, even if it was his. But him recognizing that he does know that knife and that is familiar to him, it actually worked in his favor. His honesty really worked in his favor, and it had police questioning if he was involved, because again, they just felt like he would deny it if it was his, no matter what. Now, police also spoke to friends of Devin and confirmed that Devin's train arriving to Minot didn't arrive until about 9:30 on the night of, or on the day that Anita was killed. So it wasn't even until hours afterwards that Devin was in Minot, again, leaving police to believe that he wasn't involved because he wasn't there. He just wasn't there. So that checked him off the list as well. His alibi was confirmed. And furthermore, police did go back and circle back with that one family member. They showed her the picture of the knife again, and she actually retracted what she had originally said. She said that the knife that she was remembering had a wolf emblem on it, and this one did not. So it was a different knife. So the whole thing just kind of got scratched. Now, regarding this knife, forensics were able to pick up several different DNA profiles. However, none of them were matching any of the people that police talked to. So it didn't match Michael, it didn't match Tyler, it didn't match Devin, it didn't match anyone. And Anita's friends and family and police, everyone really felt like they were at a standstill in this investigation. They felt like because it wasn't the first 3-4 people that they had originally looked at, they were wondering who could have done this to Anita. They just weren't getting those answers. And so because of that, it was really hard for them to continue to not lose hope in this investigation. And unfortunately, it did take a toll on Anita's family. It had a ripple effect across her family. Her brother Daniel ended up taking his own life nearly 6 years after Anita's murder. And as you can imagine, this was another catastrophic loss for Anita's family. Anita's family has always tried to keep her name alive. Her Aunt Karen puts Anita's name and story in the paper every year on June 4th. Tyler, her friend, would make billboards of Anita and have them posted around town. Her sister Anna would take pink ribbons and tie them to the telephone poles throughout the community just to acknowledge Anita and really honor her. So that is where this case stood for a long period of time. But then there was a break in the case years later that really changed everything, because there was a man named William May, and William May came forward and told authorities that in 2008 he was dating a woman, and that this woman confessed to killing Anita. He said that the woman that he was dating they were at a house party in 2008. This woman got really drunk and confessed to murdering her. And this woman would be Anita's roommate, Nicole Thomas. Now, William said that when he had brought this up to Nicole afterwards, the day after, she denied everything. She really shut down the conversation. She didn't want to talk about it. She said, I was kidding. I don't know what you're talking about. And she shut it down. But there were multiple people at this party that did hear that, and they have confirmed that she has said that. And as you can imagine, with this confession, police now took a closer look into the relationship between Anita and Nicole, and they found that their roommate relationship was definitely turbulent. There was a lot of turmoil going on in that, and they had really reached a boiling point in their relationship and were considering moving out to no longer have to live together. And at first, when you first look at it, it does seem like very much roommate issues. Anita's alarm clock was too loud. Nicole had a fish tank that Anita didn't like. But what started out as small, tedious things really did seem to escalate over time. Police saw that in text messages between Anita and Nicole in the months leading up to Anita's murder, Anita got a text message that said, quote, "What goes around comes around. I have tried the being nice strategy, and that obviously just doesn't get the point across," end quote. Now, police also went back and took a look at Nicole's alibi. Nicole had originally told authorities that she was at home the night of the murder. She was home the whole weekend. She never left. But then her story started to change a little bit. She then said that she was out with friends that weekend, that she was home, but she was still doing activities. She had gone out to the bar. She had left her home. So the contradicting stories were really starting to come into play in this investigation, and police wanted to know more about really what the truth of the matter was. So 13 years later, 13 years after the murder, Nicole is brought back in for questioning. And at this point, she is married, she has a daughter, and the the allegations that were being made against her definitely caught her off guard. She was very confused when she was brought in. She didn't understand why. And then as police began speaking to her and began bringing this up to her and really what she was there for, she got very emotional. She immediately shut down, and she did not want to answer any questions that police had. But with the alleged confessions, and I say alleged because did Nicole say that? We don't know, but we're taking multiple people's word for it, as well as the circumstantial evidence and her story changing and what seemingly was a toxic roommate situation. It really led for the perfect formula for police to feel confident that they had enough evidence to follow through with an arrest, and that is exactly what they did. And in 2022, Nicole was arrested for the murder of Anita, and she pled not guilty. Now, the case did go to trial, and some of you may have seen it. It was very recent. It began on March 17th, 2025, so just a couple months ago, and it took place in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And the prosecution argued that Nicole hated her roommate. She hated Anita so much to the point where she wanted to murder her. And the issues that they were having as roommates were getting so bad. They talked about how Anita's father had suggested that Anita should install a lock on her bedroom door. The girls were talking about going their separate ways in the months leading up to her murder, and it just seemed like they could no longer stand each other. And that was really, when looking at motive here, none of the other potential persons of interest that police were speaking to really seemed to have as strong of a motive as Nicole did. And while, is it a strong enough motive? Because, okay, you're just mad at your roommate, you don't like your roommate, but for police, it was really the only motive that they could find for anyone who would want to hurt Anita. So because of that, that was what the prosecution was leading with. And during the trial, Nicole's own aunt testified against her, saying that after Anita's death, Nicole made comments how Anita deserved to die. She also made comments about how peaceful Anita's body looked after she was killed, which was definitely very odd because the only way that Nicole would know that is if she killed Anita. Now, William May, the man who originally brought Nicole back into the play and the investigation to authorities, he also took the stand and he testified against Nicole, and he said that during this house party, Nicole admitted to killing Anita. He stated that he did report this to police in 2008, but the investigators had no record of that, so that has always been unclear. Now, there was another friend of Nicole's who took the stand against her and said the same thing, that Nicole had told her that her and Anita had gotten into an argument and it resulted in Nicole stabbing her. Now, the defense, on the other hand, the defense argued that this whole investigation was a mess from the beginning. They brought up the fact that years after Anita's death, there was a TV show called Cold Justice. Some of you may have heard of it. And in this show, a former prosecutor and a team of investigators opens an unsolved murder case with the goal of obviously to solve it. And they covered Anita's case on Cold Justice. And during this, they looked at witness statements, they looked at evidence, and a lot of people believe that the Cold Justice episode is partially what led to Nicole's arrest. However, the defense stated that Cold Justice was just filming a TV show and that they had a certain amount of pressure to solve the case and that they needed to solve the case and that Nicole was the easiest person to point the finger at. Now, the defense also claimed that the inconsistencies in Nicole's story, they were minor, they were nothing to cause a fuss over, and that they spread over the course of 18 years. And they also argued that her confessions were not strong enough. We can't take them for fact. She's confessing, but she's drunk, she's at a party, and it's not strong enough from the defense's standpoint to fully run with that and believe her. Now, there still are questions regarding this case. I said it in the beginning, you're going to have questions when you leave here. Where would Nicole have gotten that knife if she was the one who was the killer? That knife was very specific. It was not your average kitchen knife. It was a very specific knife that they did not have in their apartment. No one has claimed this knife. And there were also no signs of sexual assault, so there was no sexual motive in this. And this wasn't a robbery gone wrong because nothing was taken. So it just seems, and I said this prior, that whoever did this to Anita wanted to do this to Anita. Someone was angry at her. That was their end goal. Now, after a week of a trial and 45 minutes of deliberations, the jury found Nicole not guilty of the murder of Anita. Now, after this verdict was read, the defense let out a giant scream, and many have criticized the reaction of the defense, saying that it was insensitive, and the defense actually released a statement about this. They said, quote, "When the verdict was read, we reacted emotionally. We sincerely apologize to anyone who was offended, especially to Anita Knutson's family. The loss of Anita is heartbreaking, and we in no way intended disrespect," end quote. Now, that's really it. That's the end of this case, and the case to this day remains unsolved. There are a lot of questions that are left unanswered. A lot of people believe that Nicole got away with murder. A lot of people believe that she was the one who did this. You look at the facts that are laid out for us in this case, and it's damning evidence against her. But there are people who believe that the evidence isn't strong enough to actually convict her of murder. So that is where people really lie on this case. And Anita's family, they want her to be remembered as someone who was brilliant and beautiful inside and out, and they still hope that one day justice will be served for Anita. And that is where we're at in this case. It's one that still remains unsolved, but it certainly hasn't stopped. The investigation hasn't stopped. But like I said, Nicole, she can never be charged for this again. She can never be tried for this again. So if she did it, then she got off. But if she didn't, then Anita's killer is still out there. Whoever did this, I guess, the killer is still out there, regardless of who you believe it was. So that is this case, you guys. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, we did that on our Patreon a while back, and it definitely got some people talking. A lot of people had very differing opinions, strong opinions either way. I feel like whichever way you stand for this case, you feel pretty passionate about it. So that is where we stand, and it's one that I will continue as we continue like through Patreon and stuff. We do a lot of case updates. It's hard on, the YouTube and just the killer instinct side of things to be able to consistently update what cases or what's happening in cases as they happen. However, we do that over on Patreon. So if you want to keep up with it, that's where you can find some information over there. But that's all for me, you guys. This has been so much fun. I really appreciate you guys coming out and listening, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day and great rest of your time at VidCon. Have so much fun. Thanks, guys.